All right. So I'd like to welcome everybody uh, to the newest Cloud Voice Alliance sponsored CEO success story with Janet Schijns. I'm Bill Miller, and right now we have uh, 9/11. So because there's a little bit of a history on this day, uh, I thought it would be good if we took a brief moment of silence in honor of those who were there, close to there, and remember where you were on that day. So let's do that briefly. All right. And for those of you who are attending, thank you very much for taking time out of this 9/11 day. Janet Shines is a highly sought after keynote speaker, especially by some groups, and has quite a background in a lot, most recently in the marketing and AI space. And so she is going to share a lot of information on how to use AI in your business. For those of you who've attended the CEO success stories in the past, I try to make it more about education, about the CEO role. And Janet will talk a little bit about that, her journey to the CEO position and her her current company. But um, today we're going to talk really about AI in your business. It's the fastest moving technology I've been involved with, and I've been over 5 decades in the tech world. So I've been through, from mainframes to mini computers to, uh, microprocessor based all kinds of systems and PCs, the internet, ATM, you name it. I've been through all the new technologies, always on the front end of it. Janet, welcome, and please tell
No,
us a little bit about yourself.
thank you so much for having me. And again, thank you for respecting the date. It's a difficult time for a lot of folks. So I know that's very meaningful. So a little bit about me, Janet Shines. I always repeat my last name because people think it can't possibly be pronounced that way, and yet it is. And so it's like moonshine, sunshines, Janet Shines. And a little bit about me. I actually started my career thinking that I was going to trade euro bonds and euro dollars on Wall Street. I have a finance degree, and I got there and didn't love it, gotta be honest, and quickly segued into sales and marketing because I I always tell this story because I think it's fun. I went and interviewed for a role at Cosmere, which owns L'Oreal and Lancome, and discovered that one, I was not nearly as good looking as I thought I was when I was younger, because wow, there were some real pretty people in that industry, but most of them couldn't do math. So I got the job because I had a finance degree. And so I've led my career, even though many times I've been in what could affectionately be thought of as artistic sides of the company, right? Sales and marketing, typically more artists than scientists. I always led it as a financial and scientist person, by the numbers, by the process. And I think I've been successful because of it. So I think that early education mattered. And then I went on to have a series of leadership roles in the consumer and technology industries, and ultimately started a consulting company, JS Group 1.0, which I then sold to Motorola and went to Motorola as their head of channels and ultimately their CLO, their chief learning officer. And then I left there and went to Verizon as their head of business products and ultimately their chief channel. First, I was the chief marketing technologist, and then when I had products, and then I was the chief channel officer and led the sales channels. And then I left there with a very large non-compete, knowing that I really wanted to go back to consulting. And I was blessed to be able to go to Office Depot and serve as EVP and chief merchant. And I also had all the services office for Office Depot as well for a couple of years, and then was able to have no really restrictive non-compete and come back into the tech industry and start JSG 2.0, which is a boutique consultancy firm. We have about 25 or so really highly talented people in the company that help companies go to market in what is increasingly a very crowded space in the tech industry. And I get to lead that group of extremely talented, first among equals kind of an environment here at JSG.
Well, it's pretty interesting background that you ended up in the technology world, and especially channels.
Yeah,
The way you got into channels, and so we're gonna touch on that briefly here. Um,
yeah,
so
yeah,
you kind of answered the question that we talked about, which is what inspired you to start JSG. But there's two of them for starters. There's 1.0 and
yeah,
2.0, and
yeah,
so those roles shaped your future. For you knew what you wanted to do, and you got there eventually, and now you are
yeah.
a CEO. Now the people from the Cloud Voice Alliance and our attendees, they're all small, medium-sized businesses for the most part. And in the AI world, there's a lot of dynamic change. I think even
Yeah.
as late as a year ago, when I was interviewing another CEO here, and I one of the questions I was always asking in the interview was, AI is such an up and coming technology. Have you started any AI projects? And the typical response was, no, we don't have any time. And so I said, well, I would highly suggest you find somebody in the company, ask who's interested in doing
Right. Who's
some
passionate?
yeah,
Yeah,
and you might find somebody, even if you're a 5-person company, you might find somebody who's interested. Assign them a project and try
absolutely.
to start to do something. Because if you don't know how to do it, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And I didn't know how fast it was going to be here, but look at Bill McLean and Jody Gonzalez and Upon AI. They're hot as a pistol right now, and
That's right.
they might have two other companies each, but this one is exploding. And so it's
Exploding. Well, I think, if you think about it, Bill, it's almost like fast is the new big, and AI makes you fast, right?
yeah,
So that's really what it is. It's a speed competition now.
yeah.
And I think that's where smaller companies maybe aren't getting it, right? They could compete on a whole new level if they just embrace AI in the business.
But that's where I'm hoping you might be able to help some people here, because you're talking to companies every single day about AI. In our house, we're using
Yeah.
AI to build a side business, and I use it all the time in helping, the people that I consult with. So um, you have consistently been considered as a disruptor and a top tech influencer. You've kind of put yourself into this position. Um, you know, what kind of leadership, you know, do you think is required today in the world of AI? Maybe you can help some of the people here.
Yeah. So I think the first thing is leadership. I don't know that leadership ever changes. What makes a good leader ever changes, right?
Mhm.
Good leaders are inherently good leaders and they will figure it out even when market conditions change, whether markets are up, whether markets are down, whether AI is in, whether horse and buggies are in. Good leaders are good leaders. But what I am finding with AI is that we have a certain generation of leaders that are somewhat intractable about their gut, that they believe that their gut is always right. They trust their gut on people, process, customers, product, etc. And they have over-indexed on their gut. And I would tell them your gut's not that healthy. Like you think your gut's really good at making decisions, but in an AI world, it's not, right? You kind of got the equivalent of water in Mexico happening in your stomach right now when it comes to making decisions if you're not using AI. And so the first thing I really encourage people to do is say, look, test your gut by using the data your business has and AI tools and see how good your gut really is, because what I'm finding 9 out of 10 times, that's the biggest leadership challenge, is people are leading from the past.
Mhm.
What worked before, who worked before, who was good before, and they start blaming exterior influences, let's say as an example, for why they're not making their number. Let's just use it as a simple, CEOs are always talking about making their number, right? Whether it's a profit number or revenue number. Um, and they're saying it's the market, things have changed, my gut's telling me. No, don't use your gut. Use AI to tell you what's really happening. And I'll use an example of good leadership in this. I was working with a company and they were very convinced that the people they had in their leadership roles were good. And they had those people for a long time. And we used some AI programming that we did to test the skills of people against real data. What was really happening in the business versus what did they think should happen in the business. And they all failed miserably. Now, that doesn't mean that those people were replaced. It means they were retrained. And that's where I think good leaders are stepping into AI. They're understanding that they have to retrain their teams to continue to be good in an AI world. And if you don't retrain your teams, give them the AI tools they need, you're going to fall wickedly behind.
Yeah. You bring up a great story with the gut and the data. In my upcoming second book, what every CEO must know, 37 secrets to lead with confidence and power. One of the examples I use, and I talk about it more than once, is there's so many CEOs, and there's a specific example in there. It's before AI even, that the CEO ran everything but his balance sheet on gut. He made the wrong hires based on his gut. He made the wrong decisions for projects on his gut. And it was over and over and over again. And the point of that is, and AI just exacerbates it even more, is you have to have data to back your gut. So your gut decision might be the right decision, but back it with data before you pull the trigger.
Yeah, and I think that's so true because, and AI, by the way, AI is only as good as the data it learns from, right? So if you're trying to layer AI on top of this like completely messy, non-accurate data set and wonder why it doesn't perform, that's probably part of your problem. But I think you're making a great point there, right? Is that it does come down to the data. Business is a science, not an art. And we need more and more scientists now that we have AI, clearly in our sights.
Right. So let's kind of move into another part. Your mission of Save the Channel, which is a hashtag in your world,
It is.
Is really bold
Yes.
and clear. It's bold and clear, and a lot of the people here are involved with the channel one way or another. For those unfamiliar, what's going on with AI ecosystem for the world, for the channel world, based on what you see?
Yeah. My mission always, even when I was a channel chief somewhere, was to save the channel. And people would say to me, but the channel's doing fine. Why do you need to save it? Because it's always under threat. Every new technology, every new company that comes in, everybody always has the idea that they can distribute it better than the existing channel partners that have those relationships. And by the way, they're always wrong, right? The channel's kind of the lifeblood of technology. They're always wrong. But particularly now, Save the Channels becomes super important because AI is beginning to disrupt processes. It's taking products that used to be millions of dollars and making them thousands of dollars. It's taking people, resources that used to think DevOps, right? Used to take 10 guys sitting in a room. There was an occasional girl there too, but I'm just using guys just for everybody, coding and fixing code and hiding Easter eggs and all kinds of stuff. And now it's like one ChatGPT and somebody to check the code, right? Make sure there's no errors, enhance the code a little bit. And so that moment, right? When you think about that, it's affecting managed services, which are the lifeblood of the channel. It's affecting product delivery. It's affecting price. We're seeing end user customers saying, well, aren't you using AI for that? So can't you lower my prices? And so everything we're doing now is saying, how do we balance these two levers, right? Of AI making things more efficient and thereby lowering the cost for many channel partners, particularly for services. But at the same time, how do we use the other side of that lever to increase your revenue and your profitability so that your business is in fact more profitable? Because one of the things that I'm most worried about, keeps me up at night with the channel, is the partners that do not adopt AI will still have customers that think they should have. So even if they're still doing it the old school way, customers are going to value that less. Right. And so they're going to get put under pressure and potentially put out of business if they're not using AI to run many significant elements. And so that's why Save the Channel right now in an AI driven world is so important, because those partners have got to shift and shift quickly to an AI augmented note that I didn't say driven,
Mhm.
AI augmented business model, or they will be their profit's going to be at risk and their customers will be at risk as well. Because somebody else who's doing it better will come in at a cheaper price.
So, so for anyone that's involved in the channel, both on the buying or selling side, that watches this interview, what 2 or 3 suggestions would you make for them if they
Yeah.
know they're behind and they don't even know where to start?
Yeah. So I'm going to separate it because there's kind of two big parties in the ecosystem. One is the supplier, provider, vendor,
Mhm.
and one is the partner, seller, services, right? Kind of those two. For the vendor, supplier, provider, you've got to bring data into your channel program and channel strategy. You've got to use AI to look at your partners, look at your partner community, figure out who's actually going to be a good and growing partner and what's going to be a good and growing ecosystem. Of course, you can pay us to do that. We can redesign your strategy, or you can do it yourself, but you need to do it. And there's some great tools out there, simple starts like a partner optimizer you can use to go through your entire partner database and re-vet it with data, right? So there's stuff out there that's easy. For the partners, they need to rewrite their go-to-market plan like now, right now, and integrate AI into it. How are you going to get funnel leads, customers? Is where I would start. Everybody seems to want to start with AI on like shiny, bright, shiny objects. Like we're going to put AI in our product. We're going to put AI in our this, right? Everybody wants the bright, shiny object. Don't look for the bright, shiny objects. Look for the little things that would have the biggest impact in your business and start there. You can make a custom ChatGPT agent in an hour to take on whatever. You can train it. It's pretty self-sufficient. The second thing you have to do, and I think this might be the most important, is we all know that end customers search and they talk in their social networks, and that's how they find us if they want to buy our stuff, right? And as a partner or a vendor, you want people to buy your stuff. But that search behavior changed almost overnight because of AI. People are not using Google in business for search. People are using ChatGPT. People are using Copilot. So if you don't train ChatGPT and Copilot to find you, all that money you spent on search engine optimization, search engine marketing, all those campaigns you did with Google and Bing and everybody else will be for naught because people aren't looking there anymore. They're going to ChatGPT and asking a specific question and it's
Mhm.
getting answered. And so if you spend your time, that's an easy thing to do. Put a lot more content out on your website and on social media because it scrapes LinkedIn, Reddit, and your website. So if you're not involved there, you're not getting scraped when it scrapes for answers. And then dedicate somebody, even an intern, on your team to training ChatGPT. Put content on it, put your white papers on it, ask ChatGPT for feedback on it. Direct it to your website and say, can you look at this white paper and tell me who we should show it to? Well, customers, ask ChatGPT. I know we're the best channel consulting firm, but who else is good? See who they say. Make sure you have more content. Over time, ChatGPT will start to answer the way you want it to answer. It's a machine. We can call it intelligent. It's not that intelligent. You can train it. So train it, spend the time, spend the effort. It's free. That would be the biggest piece of advice for anybody that's behind. Make sure that ChatGPT knows who you are and you have enough content that it's scraping your content and giving you as an answer.
That's great suggestions. Great suggestions. And it's all true. I know that my GPT and Connie has her GPT, and we actually have several GPTs, but
Right. I have custom
it's
ones for everything. Yeah.
right. The only thing, there's certain things you want to be careful of putting out there. You don't want to put your business model and your financials out
Of
there.
course, of
But you
course. Unless
but
you have enterprise chat GPT and then they do not share it if
right.
you pay. If you subscribe the $20 subscription, they also do not share your data. If you're using it unpaid, you're putting your data out in the public domain.
But there's a lot of reasons to want your stuff to be out there.
That's my point. Like, listen, don't put your P&L, up there. You probably don't want to do that
Right.
unless you're publicly traded. It has it anyway. But if you think about the data you want to have, you have to create links, you have to put that data on Reddit, you have to put that data on LinkedIn, you have to put that data on X and on Facebook and on your website. You have to backlink your website to other sites so that as it goes to scrape, it finds you. And that's 50% of the equation. The other 50% is you got to spend some time training it physically in there, explaining your business, asking questions about your business, guiding it to your business. And if you do that, you'll come up in the search. It's no different than search engine optimization you did on your website.
Yeah, there you go.
Same thing, different platform.
So we're not staying on AI, but let's talk about JSG, the share volume of leads that you delivered last year, billions of dollars in leads. That's staggering impact in our businesses, all of our businesses. Where does AI play a role in that now in the go-to-market acceleration?
It's 85% AI, how we do leads.
Wow.
So our two programs that really work are social selling, and that's the 15% that isn't AI, which is that your salespeople all have to learn to do social selling. They have to learn how to engage on Reddit, how to engage on LinkedIn, how to engage on whatever site it is your customers typically go to and have discussions, right? If you're B2C, it might be Facebook, it might be Insta, right? It could be Snap, whatever. That social selling program teaches your sellers how to listen, learn, respond, and act to get business. The other 85% is using a lot of AI for content for LinkedIn. Of course, we edit it to make it not, have the tells of AI. But the other campaign that produced a majority of the leads is our intent-based campaign. And what we do is we look at customers who are ideal for you as a business. And then we set up their intent metric. We look at where they're going, who they're talking to, what they're talking about, what they're downloading, what emails they're responding to, what content they're responding to. And we use an AI SDR system to follow up with them. And once they hit a certain score indicating that they have some intent around your solution, we turn it over to your sellers. Those highly qualified leads close at about 30 to 33%. Of those leads close with a good sales team. Obviously, if you have a bad seller, right? Or if you have a good seller, it can be higher, but on average, 33. And this year we're tracking over 8 billion already in leads that we've turned over to folks. So we are really figuring this game out. We continue to enhance the game. Every social media platform continues to change their algorithms. So you have to stay very up on it. Every site, every email, everything, right, keeps changing. So we have people that full-time, that's all they're doing is just figuring out how they find customers. And they're using AI. I always say one person is augmented by hundreds of agents that are AI agents to get.
No question about it. So we promised the show attendees, the webinar attendees, that we're going to share how to limit risk and deliver a profitable upside. You've touched a little bit on that. If you were to package that balance of limiting risk and delivering profit, where are companies getting it right or wrong today?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think the first thing is important for the listeners is AI isn't a binary risk or upside question. It's an and question, right? It's a risk and upside. It's about designing for both. So it's about setting rules that protect your downside while making small kind of high velocity bets that unlock upside. And the companies that are getting that balance of risk and reward right are seeing AI as that big growth multiplier and not a science experiment. And that's the first thing I'm going to say about how we limit risk and deliver profitable upside. The first one is, jumping on AI features without making sure they're going to have a measurable business outcome. So as an example, deploying AI chatbots, but not tracking customer churn when they don't speak to a live person and when instead they speak to an AI chatbot. Like, how much worse is it? And so what we're really focusing with people on is don't jump on AI features without tying them into that business outcome. What business outcome do you most need? And the three things we hear people most need: more leads, Everybody, I've never met a company that says we don't need more leads. They need lower cost to provide, lower cost of customer experience, lower cost and lower development costs. And then on top of all of that lays fast. Like the biggest outcome we want is do it faster than in the past. And so you want to get the AI features that are tied to those outcomes, not just like, hey, you know what would be cool if we did an AI chatbot. The second thing is underestimating your data problem. A lot of companies are putting AI in and their data isn't right, and then they're wondering why the models underperform. So really coaching people to make sure they have clean data sets, and that gets rid of a lot of your risk. The next thing that everybody needs to do with AI, in my opinion, to get the upside from it, is you need to treat your AI agents as you onboard them, much like you would treat a new hire. So for a new hire, you would provide training, you would make sure people talk to them about the company, you would involve them in a couple things and give them feedback. Let's use, for example, a new salesperson. You would give them feedback. How they do? Do they do a good job on the demo, right? You have to treat your AI agents the same way. You have to onboard them because they're not just a cost-cutting play. They're an augmentation play most of the time. So the biggest upside for especially smaller businesses isn't that you're going to be able to replace a person. It's that you're going to be able to give that person leverage to do higher value work. And we saw this in early days with people using it for writing, marketing content, et cetera, and then having one person who kind of cleaned that writing up. Now we're starting to see it in finance, right? Where AI can close the books in 3 days, what would take a company a month to do. We're seeing it in sales, right? AI SDRs. We're seeing it across the business. And so what's important is to say, where could I have people do higher level work if I augmented them with some AI? And then the last thing I'll bring up as the risk is moving too fast without controls. So we talked about one of those, moving too fast, like careful what you share with AI unless you have a lockdown version of it. Why a lot of people are using Copilot, right? Because you can keep your data within your data. But you also have to have controls around bias, compliance, auditability. One of the things we're seeing is that AI agrees with you. It wants you to like it. And so great question. Let me answer you. And a lot of times it just confirms your bias. And if you don't challenge that, you can really get your business in trouble. So I would say rewrite that go-to-market and business plan, integrate AI as new staff, and define the business outcomes you want from AI, and you will get both growth and risk avoidance.
What I've found is that your prompt needs to be very detailed, and you need to tell it when you ask it to check something. It will be nice, but if you tell it to be the world's #1 critic on your plan, whatever it is you're sharing, and tell me everything that's wrong with it, everything that might cause a problem, any corner cases. If you have your prompt can be super long. It doesn't have to be just a few.
Super long, and you should do it more than once. So I will do that, and then I will ask again, like, what didn't you tell me? And it'll typically answer again with even more, right? And so what I also do, which I think is very helpful for people, is I challenge my own decisions with AI. So I'll say, I'm thinking about doing this program. What should I do instead?
Mm-hmm.
And it's amazing. Sometimes it comes up with a much better idea than what I came up with. So and other times it's stinky ideas, right? It's like, oof, yeah, that's not good. And I think that's the key. It's treating it like a person. You wouldn't expect a person in your business to be 100% right 100% of the time. You would check before you would just accept. You need to do the same thing.
And then you can always ask it for, where did you find this data? Give me a response
for that data. Yeah. And some of the new features that specifically that ChatGPT has, where they have deeper research mode. You only get certain access based on what you've paid, maybe 10 a month or whatever. Mm-hmm. But using some of that when it's really important is critical. The final thing I will say to wrap up that AI risk and growth is just make a list of where you need help in your business and go ask ChatGPT what AI solutions are there for help in getting leads, for help in DevOps, for help in this. It'll give you a pretty complete list of the AI solutions, because people go, well, that sounds great, but where am I finding the solutions? Right where you would find the rest of the help. Just ask ChatGPT for it.
Yeah, it's pretty
And
powerful now.
it's a pretty good job.
It
Yeah.
just come so far in the last, even the last 6 months. It's just it, and it's, I mean, it's not just ChatGPT 5, because that's really the primary tool I use.
Agree.
But
No, yeah.
it started with 4.0 actually.
Copilot. I mean, Copilot's amazing on getting through all your files and putting together like, hey, out of the 100 files I found, these are the trends. And Copilot's pretty amazing if you want to, because you can trust it with your data in a way you probably wouldn't trust public. I would say this, Bill, and then we'll move on. You have to be specific as to the outcomes you want with any of the AI agents, right? So if you say to the AI agent, I want to get more leads, so what lead companies are good, you're going to get a mishmash of stuff. But if you say, I want 100 leads that cost less than this, and in this industry, in this geography, and like to your point, be really specific.
Mm-hmm.
It'll come back with specific answers that fit your criteria. If you don't know what your outcome is, you're not ready for AI.
So that actually is a great segue to the next question, was what's one of the biggest misconceptions business leaders have about adopting AI right now?
That it's going to let them cut hundreds and hundreds of people in big companies, and in smaller companies that it's going to let them, save the world, right? It is not going to let you cut hundreds and hundreds of people today. Do I think that it will definitely eliminate some knowledge worker jobs over time? Absolutely. I mean, I just saw a finance demonstration where it closed the books. I mentioned that previously. In like a couple of days, took 100 people in a publicly traded company more than a month to close the books at the end of the year. AI closed it. You have to, like not even like 1/10 of the time. There's a company, Arkeri, and for anybody, let's check it out just because I think it's fascinating. It's Arkeri. And for a long time in our industry, getting network connectivity has been a burden, right? Like truly a burden, because none of this technology works unless you're connected. Shocking. And somebody has to build that pipe to your facility or to your home. And so there's a bajillion construction companies across the US and the world that plumb networks. And it takes them 2 to 3 weeks to figure out a quote on what it's going to cost to get a network built in your town or company or whatever. Well, Arkeri, after, he's been doing it for 20 years, they built a GPT bot that can do it in 30 minutes. And I was on a call yesterday and somebody said they spent 2.5 weeks building out a very complex quote. They missed the dirt permits, the ground permits. Arkeri did not. They would have underquoted the bid by almost $400,000. They ended up using the 30-minute AI-empowered quote versus their own 2 weeks of people. So yes, it will replace people, but only if your people do a task that can be automated fully. And if not, it will not replace your people. And I think that's the biggest fallacy about AI right now, is that myth that it's going to replace like all the workers and everybody's going to be out of work.
So Janet, there's been a couple of announcements from companies like Microsoft and IBM, and that they've laid off thousands of workers because of AI. Do you think that they're going to find out after a while that they need to hire people back? Or do you think, because that goes against kind of what you just said?
It does. And I think, listen, for the majority of our listeners, I'm talking to them. Okay. Huge, massive companies like a Microsoft, right? Or an Amazon, they're going to find efficiencies quickly with AI because they had a lot of inefficiencies. I worked in corporate America. I worked in a 180,000 employee company, Verizon. And I will tell you right now, and I love my Verizon alumni as I say this, I would tell you right now, you could have cut 15% of those people and never noticed a single difference. So that's what they're cutting now. They're not cutting bone. During COVID, we all overhired, right? They're not cutting bone yet. They're barely cutting any muscle. They're just cutting fat. Now, they have to. They promised their shareholders, I sit on boards, right? They promised their shareholders they were cutting people because AI costs a lot of money in compute and energy power. You got to have a lot of compute power. You got to have a lot of power, a lot of energy. So those costs are skyrocketing as people use AI. You got to have an offsetting cost somewhere. So the big companies are going to cut first. Some of it they will learn they're going to regret. My personal call is it'll be marketing, where they realize they messed up, they cut too deep, right? That'll be their first tell. But in some of the people who are crunching expense reports, kind of stuff, no, they're not going to miss those people. So for the mega multinational corporations, they can probably cut 15% and not feel the pain. For smaller businesses, it's just not going to happen. You're not bloated enough to use AI to get rid of anybody, right? And maybe 3 years from now, it'll be different, right? They'll get so good that they'll be like having a human. But right now, they're not good enough to replace a human yet.
So there's another great answer that you gave that's a perfect segue to the next question. Looking ahead 3 to 5 years, how do you see AI reshaping the way we think about marketing, partnerships, and growth strategies for our audience?
Yeah, it's going to change everything. It's no different than the industrial revolution, the knowledge revolution. This is the AI revolution, right? We left farms to go to factories. We left factories to go to offices. We're going to leave offices to go to bots, agents. I'm sorry, politically correct agents is the term. I don't love the term. So what I think is going to happen, and again, nobody has a crystal ball, but I think 3 things happen. 1, AI moves past human augmentation. Today, it is at the human augmentation level, except for some bespoke use cases, right? When it's just pure number crunching or just pure research, right? There's some things where it definitely today can replace, but primarily it's augmentation. In the next 2 years, it moves to replacement. What does it replace? It replaces jobs that do not require experience to come up with an answer. So when you think about junior accountants that are just crunching the numbers, right? When you think about marketing, entry-level content people. So experience will not yet be replaced even 3 years from now, but non-experience, entry-level, basic work, done, right? Math, science, physics, writing, content, art design. Without experience, you're replaceable. So that's the first thing. The second thing it will do is it's going to change the fabric of how we do business because, and I'm going to go way back in the past here, Bill. There was a famous department store owner, John Wanamaker. He owned Wanamakers in Philly. And he once said that I know that 50% of the advertising money I spent is wasted. I just don't know which 50%. So the second change that's going to happen in businesses, we're going to know which 50%. We're going to know where people aren't performing. We're going to know where things aren't performing, where products aren't performing. The feedback's going to be instantaneous and brutal because we'll only be using data. And so all those pet projects that big companies had, or even small companies sometimes, right? Where the people that we all shook our head about and said, how has he survived? Does he have pictures of somebody? All of that stuff is going to get flushed out. Right? You're laughing because we've all had said that about somebody, right? Like, is he pictures? Like, what is it? Is he related to him? Like, how does okay? All of that's going to get washed out. There will be no more 3-4 years from now. There will be no more gut decisions. It will not be accepted by your investors, by your customers, by anybody. There'll be no more gut. So the data is going to say what the data is going to say, and you're going to have to run your business based on what the data says. So that's the second turn, right? So you can replace some humans. Data is going to say what the data says. And the third thing is whole new things are going to spring up out of those first 2 because you're going to be able to do more with less, with just agents, right? And because you're going to challenge the data, new things are going to happen. And so I want to use a real example of this. I was on with a client yesterday, and using AI, they identified that certain applications for their credit were fraudulent. Ones they'd never, ever caught before, AI caught. AI was like, that doesn't make sense. Why that person paused so long on their date of birth and their social security number? That doesn't make sense. Are they old? Are they not seeing, or are they fraud? So we're going to intercept. We're going to put an agent in front of them and say, are you having a problem completing the form? Can I help you? And guess what happened? The fraudulent people abandoned immediately. The people that needed help kept going. Now, in the past, we just said, they're just struggling. Maybe they're old or English is a second language or whatever. We'll let them go through. All that fraud never got caught until after it happened, many times years after it happened. Now, AI said, I'll catch it right now. And yes, I'm going to change the experience for anyone who takes too long, even the people that aren't fraudulent. But I, as a robot, I don't have to say, well, how the heck am I going to staff that? That's 10,000 people a day. I'm going to talk to 10,000 people a day. You don't have to. You can spin up any amount of agents that say, can I help you, Bill, with that? You seem to be going slow there. Can I help you out? You get 10,000 agents in a minute. And so because of that data, plus, hey, replaced a human, plus there's a new way to do this, you're going to see whole new models come up and pricing models and product models that we never dreamed possible will be coming up. And hey, maybe we're going to a world where all of us will hire a bunch of AI agents and stay home and not have to work at all. I don't know. But I know that the next 3 years are going to be a real change in how we work.
So let's just focus on the next 3 years for our last question before the lightning round here. What role do humans play in that increasingly AI-driven channel and go-to-market environment? And how do we lead in a way that keeps people at the center?
Well, you have to become a leader of AI agents. That's the first thing. I mentioned that in the very beginning, right? You have to get comfortable that your job is no longer leading people. It's leading people and machines, right? And you have to be able to treat those machines as if they work for you. They're agents. They need performance inspections. They need bias inspections, and you need to make sure they're not creating harm, that they're doing good. So that's the first thing. As leaders, people's role will be oversight. People's role will be governance, and it will be experience. It'll be knowing what question to ask or knowing what things come up. So you'll need less unexperienced workers and more experienced workers to say, oops, hang on, let's take another look at this, right? So that's the first thing. The second thing is the rest of the humans will find a different job the same way they did in every other revolution. There's always another job, right? We're seeing it come back already. Farming's coming back, homesteading, right? We'll find other things to do with our time. Some of the humans just won't work in offices or remote offices anymore. They'll have other things that they do that'll be hard. And I'll wrap that 3 to 5 years up by saying, 3 years up by saying, what is easy for humans is hard for robots, and what is hard for robots is easy for humans. And that's where the humans will go. They just did a study, took a robot 28 minutes to fold a piece of laundry, a t-shirt. It also took it 2.5 hours to replace a spark plug on a tractor. So the things that are physical are going to be the last to go. And so if your kid went to school to be a plumber or an engineer or an electrician, congratulations. Good choice.
Well, there's numbers supporting that, the trades right now. So you've talked a lot about your lead generation at the company. So the next question about how do you utilize LinkedIn and social media benefit your business? It's really kind of based on social media.
It is. And listen, what I always tell people about LinkedIn and social media is there are two kinds of people on LinkedIn and social media. The first one is that horrific person that the minute you connect with them, they try to sell you something. We've all had this, right? Like you connect them and they're like, bam, oh, I can't wait to try to sell you. Like, oh, and then you immediately unconnect with them. Good social sellers listen, and then they insert themselves in a conversation. Right. So the person posts something about their business. Hey, we launched this new product. It's amazing. And they insert themselves in that conversation. Wow, that sounds really cool. How are you thinking about this? Right. Are you thinking about tracking performance? Let's say they sell a performance tracking AI solution. Oh, well, hey, we're doing this. We're doing that. Wow, that's super interesting. Let me share this article. Right. So they begin to make a relationship. And when I tell people social media is no different than meeting someone, Like if you met somebody at an industry event, you wouldn't run up to them and go, "Hi, I'm Janet and I sell channel consulting. And what we do is you would never do that. So you shouldn't do that on LinkedIn. You would warm it up. Hey, what are you doing? Oh, really? That's interesting. This is what I do. What are you thinking about this?" So the first thing is listen and converse. Don't sell. The second thing is listen where your ideal customers are talking. So I'm going to use Reddit as my great example here. If you want to learn everything you need to know about your competitors, just go follow their thread on Reddit. And then use that content on LinkedIn for you to create posts. You can actually take the Reddit thread, put it in ChatGPT, say, my company's name is ABC Co. This thread is about my competitor. I'd like to post something on LinkedIn that would get people to look at me, but I don't want to be a bad competitor or a bad sport, or however you want to word that, right? And ChatGPT will write you the perfect content. Now, the only thing you have to do is edit it, right? You want to take out those dashes that ChatGPT loves to use. And you also want to take out the word in a world, because it tends to like to start every sentence with in a world. So you want to take out any tells. It'll take you 5 minutes. And you post that on LinkedIn. And then what happens is the people who are on Reddit complaining are also on Reddit, listening, learning, right? And they're on LinkedIn, listening, learning. And they see that and they see themselves. They go, "Oh, Bill gets it. We were just talking about that on Reddit. Bill totally gets it. I'm gonna be friends with Bill." And that's where it starts, right? They hear you in their voice. You start that thing, you keep in front of them. And when it's time for them to buy, you're the first person they think of. That's how social media and social selling works now. And we teach an entire social selling class, virtual boot camps, the whole 9 yards. So if anybody has sellers they want to educate, please feel free to reach out to me.
That's a great answer, by the way. So with all the great stuff you've talked about, let's talk about this one. What's the biggest mistake you've made as a CEO? How could you have avoided it, and how did you recover from it?
Oh my gosh, I make the same big mistake all the time. And I think we're all like that. Like, I think anybody that says they learn from their mistakes is probably fibbing just a little tiny bit. So I think the biggest mistake I make as a CEO, and I continue to make it, I battle against it every day, is I'll just do it. Like, I'll just do it. And so thinking that I can just do it, as opposed to finding somebody to do it, or getting somebody to do it, or getting somebody to understand to do it, I battle against that every day. And I am increasingly better at it as I age. But it still is my number one mistake as a CEO, like thinking I always have the right answer. And so therefore I can just I'll just take care of it. Like, that's definitely my mistake.
That's a tough one, because how to avoid it is you got to be aware of it. So that's the self-awareness part that CEOs need. And then recovering from it is to be able to talk about it and say, I'm going to do better next time. So,
well, and I tell my team all the time, I have tells when it's starting to happen. I've noticed it. I get much more focused on, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. Like, I get very like almost punch listy. And so I've told my team, stop me, interrupt me, say, hey, you're doing it. Like, you're doing it, and so it really has improved. I would say I'm 95% cured, but the 5% still's there at 1 a.m.
okay.
when you're thinking about stuff. Yeah.
So what advice would the Janet of 2025 give to the Janet of, let's say, 9/11, 24 years ago?
Man, wow, yeah, this was a rough day, right? What would I give the Janet of 2000, the 2000s? I would say the first thing would be like, calm down. You'll get there. If you're talented and you do the right stuff and you have a plan, and you stick to the plan, you'll get there. And so calming myself down a little bit about the journey probably would have been great. If I could have seen in the future the Janet who's C-suite and EVP and on boards and everything, right? I probably could have calmed that person down 20 years ago that wanted to get there today, right now, right? The second thing I would say is to open the aperture. So earlier in my career, I was probably a little more narrow in what I wanted to see, hear, talk about, you know, and I always use silly examples, but like I never really thought I liked the opera and didn't want to go. But there's things to be learned, right? From experiences that you don't think you like, but they open your aperture to different people, to different experiences, to different ways of looking at the world. I would have opened my aperture farther when I was younger. So those would be my two things, like calm down and open your aperture a bit, and experience things that you might think have no bearing at all on your business, but that fresh perspective could really help you.
And then what's the one factoid nobody knows about you that you're willing to share?
That nobody knows about me that I'm willing to share. Oh, there's so many that people know about me. I'm a bit of an open book. I kind of just tell people everything. But the one thing I would say willing to share that people don't know about me is that I am from first grade. I was a pain in the neck in first grade. I probably would have been on medicine in today's world, but I would assume I was like ADHD or whatever it might be, right? And my first grade teacher was very frustrated with me. And so she brought in a device that she had me sit in front of and read through. And it was an Evelyn Wood reading device that she had gotten years before. And it had this little pedal, and you stuck your face in it, and you could go faster and faster and faster and faster and faster. And it did keep me busy. Early video games. I'm a big gamer now. And I learned to speed read. And I typically don't tell people that because it impresses the heck out of them by how quickly I can absorb content and information. So if you tell people you can speed read and they send you something that's 20 pages long, they want you to read it in 5 minutes. If you don't tell them, they'll give you the normal hour anybody else would get to look through a 20-page document. And so I many times don't bring it up or don't have people know it because it's kind of like a hidden benefit for me. So
you learned that in first grade because
first
you
grade.
frustrated your teacher.
Yeah. And
And
I
then,
read 1,500 words a minute with about 90% comprehension.
wow, that's impactful. I don't even know what to say there. It's impressive. So, okay, 3 lightning round questions. What AI trend are you watching closely?
The AI trend I'm watching the most closely is sales, and the
Okay.
replacement of sellers with agents.
Okay. And
Yeah,
what's
probably
the
the most
biggest
interesting one because it's the hardest job, right? So we have a hard time getting people to make cold calls and do that job. So that's why I'm so interested in seeing if it works.
well, that's why you have an SDR team that's using AI.
It's exactly
So
why.
what's the biggest myth about AI in business?
I'm going to stick with my earlier answer that it's going to replace all the humans.
Okay.
I think that's a big myth, and it's a great option for big companies, but it's a myth for everybody else right now. 3 years from now, not so much, but right now, it's a myth.
And then what's the one leadership mindset that never goes out of style, even in an AI powered world?
Servant leadership, that you serve your team. In the words of Descartes, right there go my people, so I must follow them. That never goes out of style, whether it's the agents that you're following or your actual people. Being a servant leader, I don't think will ever go out of style.
So that's it. It's fantastic. It was a great interview. Really, the topic is hot. Your answers were really interesting and thought provoking, and I hope that the people that both attended live and watched the replay get a lot from it. For
Thanks so much.
those who want to engage in your services or just connect with you, how do they do that?
They can contact me in a number of ways. The first one is you can always go on our website, jsgnow.com, and fill out a request. The second is you can connect with me on LinkedIn, Janet Schijns. You can email me, jschijns@jsgnow.com. And then finally, you can text my cell. Note I said don't call my cell because people end up calling at like 3 in the morning. And I don't appreciate that. And my cell phone number is 908-883-2020. That's 908-883-2020. And for David, who put some questions in the chat, David, yes, I will be at the CCA meeting in January. And for Robert, who said, if you have a paid for chat GPT, how do you train it? Time, you talk to it. You share links from your website. You share content that you have. Again, don't share your P&L or anything you wouldn't want, people to know, but you share content, share presentations, share marketing campaigns, share white papers, share all the content you can. If you're giving a presentation at an event, Robert, load that presentation up into ChatGPT and say, I just gave this presentation. How do I summarize it post-event for social media? Now ChatGPT has your presentation. So you want to just constantly talk to it. And as you talk to it and end almost every query with, or start almost every query with, I know we're the best at, insert what you believe you're the best at, but I wanted to share this information, or I want to get this information. Over time, ChatGPT will believe you're the best at whatever you said you were best at. Hope that helps.
Fantastic. Well, thank you all who attended for your questions. And yeah, Janet is a big CCA keynoter.
I will be there.
I listened to a couple of your events and interviews from over there. So when I put this together, so I thought, it was very helpful. Thanks to the Cloud Voice Alliance and Jeff, who's on here, for sponsoring this series. And thank you, Janet, for taking the time to prepare for this and to do it. And
thanks for having
the replay and the video will be very helpful to a lot of people, I'm sure. So thank you very much. Take care, everybody. Bye.